Men Square, inspirational, motivational videos for the modern man. Hello men, do you daydream too much? Are you a daydreamer? Do you get lost in fantasy? Do you create your own conscious waking dreams? A virtual playground in the mind's eye, of which you are God? But where do you draw the line between daydreams and creative thoughts? And when does the wandering of the mind become a problem? See, I often remind men of the vast creative potential they have, that we as men have created wonders through our daydreams and wild creative thoughts. What person doesn't or can't daydream? Should we feel sorry for those who can't daydream or laugh at their lack of imagination? Or is it the dreamers themselves that are lacking of being so lost in fantasy that reality is something they see as a hindrance to their grand reverie? So, maladaptive daydreaming. What is it? Well, from the website healthline.com, maladaptive daydreaming is a psychiatric condition. It was identified by Professor Eliezer Sommer, or Eliezer Sommer, of the University of Haifa in Israel. This condition causes intense daydreaming, but that distracts a person from their real life. Many times, life events trigger daydreams. So basically, maladaptive daydreaming is when you can barely function in reality because you're constantly away with the fairies. Or for some, dragons. Many men have many a daydream, and here be dragons. But you see, in those distractions, that may be problematic, where you can't live a normal life. You can't be who you want to be. Some find it difficult to communicate with others, so they fall into a safe, comfortable dream. Certain triggers, maybe past events, could cause people to develop what is called maladaptive daydreaming, a separation from reality, being heavily lost in daydreams. A brief tangent here. Here be dragons. As I said before, here be dragons was a phrase used by early map makers. Around the time of the 1700s, they'd used to mark maps with dragons basically. So when you see a dragon on a map, they would use the saying, here be dragons, but more a sense of saying there be monsters here, dragons, whatever, or just dangers. In other words, early warning signs that map makers used to use to warn of potentially hazardous or dangerous areas, whether they believed in dragons or not. But back on topic, to address my earlier point as to where do you draw the line between maladaptive daydreaming and having highly creative thoughts, because the mind does grant you the ability to see a project complete before a single screw has been placed, before a line has been drawn, before the first line of code created, before the first note is ever played in reality. One can capture the project complete to the end before even beginning, because in many cases, you have to see the end result before you even begin to know what you're about to begin basically, or what you're about to get into. Certain relationships should be taken with the same amount of caution. From the website lifehack.org, on the topic of where ideas come from, Mr. Dustin Wax writes, there are two schools of thoughts about where ideas come from. One is the artist as antenna concept, in where ideas float in some barely perceptible ether, waiting for someone to pick them up. The way a radio picks up a song when it's tuned to just the right frequency. This is Keith Richards waking up in the middle of the night with the main riff from Satisfaction fully formed in his head. The second school, Mr. Wax writes, holds that ideas are the product of hard work and thoughtful concentration. It's just work, says Andy Warhol to Lou Reed about songwriting in Reed's album with John Cale, Songs from Drella. Sit down with a pad and pencil and think, and don't get up until you have something. This school is the writer, grinding out his or her 4 pages a day. The mad poet, storming up and down the street in search of the perfect word to express exactly what he's feeling. Now that sounds too close to home, let's carry on. And the designer who sits down with a brief and just starts working. Fascinating indeed. Many of us, creative or not, can actually see and understand those elements. And it's something I've heard many times before myself, how some feel the ideas the creativity, how it seems to come to them almost in some divine intervention, be it in waking dreams, daydreams, or in waking from sleep, from actual dreams. How the idea itself, or the last piece of that idea, falls into your head like a tetramino block from Tetris. Fits perfectly. It creates this perfect line. Or how some almost will the creativity into being by pushing their thoughts, almost pushing against a dam, this dam blocking the creative flow until it gives from all the will and pressure. And then the flood of ideas come through. You already had the skill, you just needed a slight drop of inspiration. You see, you can get lost in too much fantasizing. Too much daydreaming, where you fill in the gaps of what you may be missing in your life by living out these tales and fables of sexy humanoid cat women and starships the size of cities with all the amenities a man could ever want. Holographic simulation rooms that make the holodeck in Star Trek look like a child's plaything. Truly, there's nothing wrong with that, but when it's to a point where reality fades and diminishes because you spend all the time in there and not enough time out here. See, the main difference is that creative thought processes are things the artist may want to show the world. Artists are some of the most vain people, seriously, because part of being an artist or being creative is how others view this project now complete. This idea manifested into reality for all the world, for all to behold. Yes, of course, one has to daydream to find that place of creative flow, this torrent of ideas. It's easy to understand why many escape into these vast moments of reverie. Some would even go as far as saying that their ability to escape into thought is in itself an art form. But as with everything, balance is key. A key we can use to unlock unlimited creative potential. Potential we can use to grow and improve, rather than to enforce these walls of dreamy thoughts, to wither, to turn to nothing. As a modern man, in a world of trending entrepreneurs, could you possibly turn those daydreams into something? Something that could inspire the creativity in others and cause them to daydream about your works, about your masterpiece? Just a thought, or a replicant fish daydream. To us as men, many of us are born to dream, but very few of us live those dreams in the real. To you as an individual man, harness the power of body and mind. In other words, focus, observe, remember. The world is yours. Have a nice day.